Y'all are always asking me for recommendations on different camera mounts to use for your 360 cameras and action cameras. So in today's video, I'm going to go over which ones I use, where I like to mount them on the bike to get different shots, as well as some different accessories that I like to use to just make using these cameras more enjoyable. Now, I will say that if you do find this video 5 years from now, some of this information might have changed. And if you want the most up-to-date information, you can go over to my blog. It's ridetofood.com. And I do have camera gear blogs over on my website that list everything that I use. So 99% of the time, I am using the Insta360 X5 to record my riding footage when I'm on the bike. I have used stuff like the Insta360 Ace Pro 2, but personally, I prefer that this camera just captures a 360-degree view and I can get multiple angles all at once. So most of the mounts that I'm going to be talking about in today's video are going to be more relatable to a 360 camera, but you guys can kind of watch and figure it out for yourself, maybe get some ideas on some different mounts that you can use if you would prefer to use an action camera. Now, I do want to mention that Insta360 is having some pretty good sales right now. They are the sponsor of today's video. So thank you, Insta360, for sending me all this stuff earlier this year. They sent me the X5. They sent me some of the mounts I'll be talking about. Some of the stuff I did purchase with my own money as well. But right now is a really good time to stock up on new cameras or new mounts and whatnot, because a lot of this stuff is on sale. So be sure to go shopping through my affiliate link that's going to be down in the comments, the caption, as well as up here in the cards. If you do use that link, I will get a small kickback at no additional cost to you. So let's go ahead and talk about camera mounts. So the number one mount that I am using whenever I'm making videos is going to be a clamp mount like this one from Insta360. I believe this one actually comes in their motorcycle bundle, but 90% of the time, if not 95% of the time, this is what I'm using, and it's mounted to my handlebars. I really like that it is easy to attach and detach, so it's not like the U-bolt mount that I'm going to be talking about here in a minute. But I can, quickly take this off on the side of the road. I can mount it somewhere lower so that I can get a different angle, like on an engine guard. Overall, this just kind of checks all the boxes for me. And if I could only take one mount on a road trip, this would definitely be it. This just does really everything I need it to do. Another way that I really like to use the clamp mount is to be able to mount it somewhere towards the back of the bike, like on a Sissy bar, and add one of the selfie sticks to it and place it up over my shoulder basically so that it looks like it's kind of getting a passenger POV whenever I'm riding. Now, I won't leave the camera on the back of my bike for very long like that because I get scared that it's going to rattle off and I'm not even going to notice that the mount moved or anything like that. So that is something where I will pull over, I will put a mount like this on, I will get the shot in a mile or two, and then I will pull back over, take the mount off, and then put the mount back on my handlebars. So another clamp mount that I really like to use is this one that I've made with almost all ram mount parts. This is the ram mount Tough Claw. This is one of their double socket arms. And then up here I have a threaded ball head that you can mount the Insta360 directly to. And I think this might just be an Amazon special. I'm not entirely sure. I can't remember. I've had this for a while. But one of the things I like about this in comparison to the Insta360 is that this middle double socket arm here comes in 3 different lengths, and I actually happen to own all 3 of them. But right now I believe I have the long one on here to show y'all. And then this is the medium, just for size comparison there. But this one's really nice just because I can change it out depending on where I'm mounting it to the bike. Like I said, with these other arms, it just gives me a lot of options. And depending on what bike I'm riding, this will actually end up getting better shots for me than the Insta360 mount will. So I've been a big fan of this ram mount one. I use it a lot on the Pan America, but overall, this is another good option. So the next mount that I use a lot is going to be this Dango Designs chin mount. And I use this a lot to get kind of like point of view riding shots, through the bars where it looks like you're the one riding my motorcycle in the videos. And pretty much all I do here is just clip the camera right in. I have one of those quick release mounts on here as well. And then I just clip this up into my helmet. Now, I will say that this is a little bit heavy and it can be a little distracting. So this isn't always the best setup for everyone. And typically when I'm using this, I only use this for a couple of miles at a time. I definitely don't ride long distances with this setup on my helmet. It's just a lot to deal with. So I usually put it on, get the shot I want, and a couple miles I pull over, take it back off, and then quickly just put this back onto my handlebar mount. Now, if you did want to ride for longer periods of time, or maybe just have a little bit less distraction when you are doing something like this, you can pick up one of these vertical mounts from Insta360, and then your X5 will sit like this on the mount. And hopefully that way the camera is out of your field of view. One of the reasons I really like to shoot with 360 cameras rather than regular action cameras is because it allows you to shoot both vertical and horizontal video without losing any of the scene that you're trying to shoot. And I think that this POV mount is the perfect example of that, because whenever I am shooting like this, I do not put the 360 camera in single lens mode. I actually keep it on full 360, and yes, half the footage looks really silly. It's a very close-up of my nose and my face in my helmet. But it allows me to really capture that entire scene. I don't have to cut part of my hands off whenever I'm editing the footage and zoom in too much. I just love that I can capture so much with the 360 camera on this style mount. And the last mount that I want to talk to y'all about is going to be the motorcycle U-bolt mount from Insta360. Mine is actually mounted back here on the Sissy bar to my lowrider ST, and that is a permanent mount. So that is something that I think is important to touch on is, do you want a permanent mount that you just need to check the bolts on every now and then, or do you want something that you can take off here and there? That is why I really like the clamp mount from Insta360, because this is not permanent. I can take this off and move it around the motorcycle with ease, whereas the U-bolt mount is a little bit more permanent, which has its pros and cons. And for me, I just don't like looking at mounts all the time, so I don't want something like that on my handlebars personally. But for me, I leave it on my Sissy bar, and what I do is I end up taking one of the selfie sticks and extending it up over my shoulder to get one of those kind of passenger POVs, which is really nice, and I really like that angle. But it is something that I don't do very often because, again, I just don't want the camera to rattle off, and I just don't know it's not back there anymore. So it's something where I'm gonna, set the camera up, get the shot for a couple of miles, and then pull back over and pull the camera back off. Those are the three main mounting systems that I use. I use a clamp mount, I use a helmet chin mount, and then I use something like the U-bolt mount for something a little bit more permanent. I keep it all pretty simple. The opportunities are pretty endless with a lot of this stuff on where you choose to mount it to your bike, and everyone's bikes are set up differently. So some of y'all have mounting options that I don't have on my motorcycles. So it's kind of just, sitting there playing with everything and deciding, exactly how you want to set your camera up for what shot. Let's go ahead and dive into some of my favorite accessories that I like to use with some of these mounts and just in general with my 360 camera, because I do think it makes it a little bit more enjoyable to use. The first one being the quick release plate that you guys have kind of heard me talk about a little bit in this video on the chin mount as well as over here on the clamp mount. Now, these are removable, and this one I currently have screwed in to the thread over here on the clamp mount, but on the bottom, it does have little feet, little prongs. So that is how it is actually mounted to my chin mount here. So it is very versatile, very easy to use. And like I've mentioned, I just love that it is such an easy way to take my camera off and switch it between different mounts, or just take it off the mount in general and, stow it away if I stop to grab lunch or something. I really like these little things. I did buy these with my own money. Insta360 did not send me these, and they were worth every penny. The next accessory that I want to talk to y'all about really quick is going to be the selfie stick. I think this one's a little spicy because I have opinions on this thing. Now, I see a lot of people that stick these out off their bikes, and you see them off the front of their bikes and it looks like they're jousting someone, But honestly, it's kind of sketchy. I have tried it. You've seen shots like that on my channel here and there. But when I do that, I only go maybe a mile with the camera out, and I immediately pull back over and take the camera off because there's just way too much flex on the camera. If you're going speeds higher than 40 miles an hour, it's kind of sketchy, and honestly, it's just really distracting. And that is the main takeaway that I do want to mention, is that's just a very distracting thing. Now, the way I like to use this, if I am going to have it out horizontal, is maybe this distance here. I don't like to have it too far out because there's just too much weight on the end of this pole. And I do want it to be within, arm's reach. I probably won't stick this out off the back of my bike if I can't reach this, just in case I do hit some bumps. I don't want this to move and then my camera drags. You always hear about people using these sticks and then they move while the rider's riding and then they scrape their camera on the ground. So I would not recommend using it in a horizontal fashion, especially sticking all the way out. But what I would recommend is that you use it in a vertical fashion, maybe off your Sissy bar or something, to get something like that POV shot that I was talking about earlier. Now, again, I prefer to not leave my camera on this stick for very long, but it is a fun shot that you can get. Or when you're off the bike and you just want to be walking around, it is fun to fully extend this thing and to just be walking around with it in your hand to just kind of get a different POV. I would highly recommend getting something like the support clamp if you do want to use this on your bike. It does help keep the vibrations down, and it's just a little bit of added security in case the other way that you have this mounted, whether it's the U-bolt or the clamp mount, comes undone. This will kind of be like an extra insurance to make sure that this doesn't go flying. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about this horizontal mount. I did just want to mention again that it is a nice way to kind of change the angle of your 360 camera depending on how you like to have it mounted to your bike. Like I said, for a chin mount, this is a great option so that your camera isn't sticking right in front of your face. I did wish that it was a quick release and that I didn't have to screw this in every single time I wanted to use it, but it's not the end of the world and it comes off pretty easily. The next accessory I wanted to talk to y'all about is technically a mount, but I can't use it on my motorcycle, so I'm going to categorize it as an accessory in this video. But this is just a little tripod base, and I don't use this a ton, but it is fun every now and then to just kind of set it on the ground and get some time lapses or get some low angle shots. Like I said, I don't use this a ton, but it is a fun way to just capture a different angle. And the one I am using currently in this video is actually from my Osmo Pocket, but it does thread directly into my Insta360 X5. So this one is made by DJI. However, Insta360 does make some of these accessories as well if you want to check those out. Now this next accessory isn't for everyone, but it's one that I have really enjoyed using this year here and there, and that is the ND filters for the X5. This allows you to shoot in fully manual settings so you can capture some cinematic footage with your X5, which I've really enjoyed experimenting with. I will say this isn't for everyone, and for some people, motion ND will do just fine. But if you're someone who wants to up your creativity and just up your, videography with a 360 camera, I would highly recommend looking into these. And the last accessory that I do want to mention in this video is one that I actually haven't used yet, but I'm just so glad that it exists. And it is going to be this replaceable lens kit for the X5 lenses. Unlike the X4, the X5's lenses are fully replaceable. And like I said, I haven't even had to use them yet. These are still the same lenses that came on this camera back in March when I got it. And they have just been so durable. I have enjoyed this camera so much, but it's so nice to know that if I do break one of these lenses, my camera isn't bricked or non-usable because I scratched the lenses. I can simply replace them with this lens kit. So I do really like that. I think that's going to do it for this video. That is everything I use and then some. I definitely don't use all this stuff all the time, but it is nice to have depending on what I'm trying to film. But if you do decide that you're going to be grabbing a new 360 camera or an action camera or any of these mounts and accessories from Insta360, again, I would appreciate it if you did use those affiliate links that are down in the video description as well as up here in the cards and pinned down in the comment section as well. So thank you if you do use that stuff. Be sure to let me know if you have any questions about anything as well in the comments. I'd be happy to answer it. But until the next one, I will see y'all on the road. Later, y'all.